How we doing, everyone? Thanks very much for tuning in to another episode of Geek Chat. I'm joined once again by a fellow geek, Andy, the Electric Geek. How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Glad to be here, ready to get stuck in about it and cover some of the latest geeky topics that are in the news today. So
excellent, and that's exactly what we're going to do for today's episode. We're going to get straight into it, and we're going to talk about movie news, both in terms of like upcoming movies, rumoured movies, and some physical media chat. Let's dive straight in, and we'll go to some physical media news, and we're going to look at the announcement of the new Disney steelbooks, which is, as you can see on your screen there, is the Moon Knight, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Andor, and Obi-Wan. Andy, what's your thoughts on these?
I think it's great that we're getting them. Obviously, it's not the first Disney Plus exclusives that have been committed to physical media. What did we get? Loki?
What did we get first? We got Mandalorian, Mandalorian, Loki, and WandaVision first. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that I've seen them all for a start. I think they look nice. Just looking at them on screen just now, they look like nice sets. Quite like the artwork and stuff. For me though, it's just I've kind of stopped buying like Marvel. I know that these are like no, it's not because I'm like one of these people that's jumped on the whole like Marvel fatigue kind of like it's not cool anymore. It's just purely like it's just where's it going to end? It's just kind of like it's a wee bit intimidating. It's the money, because I know if I buy, say, like out of those, Andor's the one that's jumping out at me. In fact, probably the two Star Wars ones are the ones that.
Let's have a closer look at Andor.
Not just because I don't mean just the designs. I just mean those are the shows that I like the most. So I would quite like to honour with a kind of steelbook collection of said. But then then you buy those two. Then does that mean the next Star Wars? Does that mean I have to go get Mando as well?
Well,
and where does it stop? So for me, it's just kind of like. I mean, I never say never. I thought I was going to buy the Mando ones. I did fancy getting just those, but I never got around to it. So I think it's great that they're coming out now, and you can own them, because it's a shame for people that do collect, that have collected MCU stuff. I know you're right into that.
Yeah.
The steelbooks, like you've got all that, but then you can't get these shows that are linked to the universe. So I get that. So I think it's great for people like yourself that are in that situation. But for me, I've kind of deliberately kept these at arm's length, just purely for personal, like, financial reasons.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a good financial decision. I am the complete opposite. I feel like I'm going to have to double dip on these, even though these are the only release, because, like you said, I am a big MCU fan and a big Star Wars fan. I have an MCU steelbook wall, and I have a Star Wars steelbook wall. I used to have a Star Wars steelbook wall. My better half kind of won that fight, and that's now been moved onto the regular shelf. But the MCU steelbook wall is still there and will forever be there. So, thinking that Disney was never going to release their Disney Plus shows on physical media, I got custom steelbooks made of a lot of the shows. I got custom steelbooks made of Andor. Of Obi-Wan, I think I made my own Falcon and Winter Soldier, like back in lockdown. I dabbled in custom steelbooks, so like I made my own WandaVision, I made my own Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then once Dan from Astro Creations, his info will be below because he makes amazing custom steelbooks. Once he started doing customs, I kind of like, I'd already kind of tapered off from doing it, because for me it was like a lockdown project almost. But yeah, so half of the Disney and Star Wars TV shows I've already had custom steelbooks made to kind of like go on the display, and now I'm going to have to buy even more because
have to buy.
I do. I mean, look at the artwork on them, as
they are nice.
Like that's fair. That is.
I remember seeing it.
That's beautiful.
You just jog my memory that I remember. It was one of your early videos, the Andor one, wasn't it?
It was.
You did a video on the custom Andor steelbook.
I think that might have been my very first, my very first YouTube video was the Mandalorian Black Adam release, because who doesn't love Black Adam? And the second one, I think, the second video I did was the Andor custom steelbook. But I'm definitely going to have to buy all of these. I've not rushed out to buy the Mando ones. I'm kind of thinking they might drop in price a little bit. I'm not. Eventually, I will have them. But I've not pre-ordered. I don't even think the pre-order's up yet. But I'll get these ones eventually. But I think, like, artwork-wise, just looking at them there, quite keen on all of them. Especially like the like the internal artwork on Obi-Wan there, the shot of Darth and Obi-Wan with the lightsabers. That's a beautiful shot from a standout moment in the show, I thought. And Moon Knight, I'll definitely be getting that one because Moon Knight is actually my 10-year-old's favourite Marvel show and possibly his favourite Marvel, favourite movie. I don't know why. I mean, I quite enjoyed it, but it's not going to bother the top 5 MCU entries. But for some reason, that totally struck a chord with Zach. He's 10 years old. He would have been 9, I think, when this came out, and he loved Moon Knight. He's probably, I would say, Spider-Man's probably still his favourite. But I would say Moon Knight would be his second favourite. So yeah, if we go back to all 4 of them,
nice steals.
They are nice looking
they're
steels.
nice.
Yeah, I don't think the prices have been released yet, but if we go on what the previous Disney Steelbook
40?
shows were,
35,
40, 45 maybe, something like that. I'm sure. I think like maybe with a Zavvi discount code, you might get it for under 40. But the Zavvi discount codes, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Do you have the VIP, the
red carpet
thing?
I do,
but they don't they still. The code still works, but you will not find that anywhere on the website. No. Even if you're actually a paying member, they just don't promote it anymore. It's
definitely one where I think they're just kind of like keeping that under the radar and just hoping people continue to pay for it.
We should maybe put that in the comments in the description, mate, for anyone who doesn't know about it.
We'll put I'll link to that in the description below about the red carpet Zavvi code, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so that was big news this week. And if we scroll past that, the other big news in the superhero world this week was James Gunn's Instagram. He posted, what is believed to be the new Superman logo. Andy, I know you're not a huge DC fan. What's your thoughts on this?
I do like DC movies and stuff. Like I've watched them all and stuff. But yeah, I think I'm excited to see what he does with it. I do like James Gunn, but I think the whole James Gunnaissance, what we call it, I'm going to call it that.
We'll work on that.
I've just gone off script there, folks. Caught Jimmy off guard with that. But
There's no script here, guys.
So, I'm interested. I do like his films, Guardians of the Galaxy, Slither. I actually watched Super recently.
Super's a good one.
I didn't even know that
That's
existed.
The one with Rainn Wilson?
Yeah.
How do we say this now? So Ellen Page at the time.
Yes. Elliot Page. I enjoyed it. And it was very it's like raw James Gunn. Went off on a tangent here, but do you remember the animated opening sequence to it? It was almost like a dance thing, but it's animated.
Vaguely, yeah.
But when you watch that now, having seen what's he called? John Cena, Peacemaker.
Peacemaker, yeah.
When you can very much see that.
Yes,
that's a kind of live action version. That he's been thinking about that for a long time. Anyway, yeah. So I do like James Gunn. I think he's funny. I think he's quite edgy in that. But I think maybe him taking over DC is coming at the wrong time. Like, unfortunately for him, just when it's widely publicised that like the superhero genre thing is burnt out a wee bit. We're always going to get them, and there'll be some cracking superhero films still to come. But the golden age, that golden age of the kind of like the Marvel run, it's gone, and people are definitely tired of them. So it's maybe just.
What do you mean? Madam Web was a smash hit.
Well, there you go. I mean, what did Madam Web take? This opening weekend, like 12 million or something like that.
It's just £12 when you're
£12.
and 11 of it was me.
So yeah, Madam Web, and then there's been some other catastrophic failures recently. That's probably the worst out of a lot of those.
By far.
That's been the cast during the cast during like the promotional tour are ripping the piss out. I think Sydney Sweeney's been on Saturday Night Live. Distance herself from it already.
I think that's the only thing they can do to save it. Now, I don't want this to turn into like a bash Madam Web podcast because my review did that doing it. Very much, but I would agree. I think there's definitely a bit of, I wouldn't say, like you said, people band about the phrase superhero fatigue and superhero movie fatigue. For me, I think that for James Gunn specifically, he's so. Like, the guy's a talented filmmaker. Guardians, at least the first one, is a 5-star or 10 out of 10. Yeah. The first Guardians is a brilliant movie. I think James Gunn being so prolific and so open on social media is a bit of a double-edged sword, where it's like he's potentially putting out too much information. It's okay to hold back on things. Like, I know this is just like an extreme close-up of of the super of the
Aye.
but in of the S Shield logo, but like in today's age of like constant instant information, it's like this is and we're part of the problem because we're talking about it on our show. It's everything that he puts out is analysed to within an inch of his life. But yeah, it's it kind of, for me, it almost feels like a non-news story because it's not drastically different.
No.
Like, if you didn't tell me that was the new Superman logo, I might look at that and think, is that maybe the same as the TV show? It doesn't look a million miles away from that. So, it's look, I'll happily go and see the movie. But yeah, for this, this making news was a little bit like, okay, it's the it's the Superman logo. Is that it?
I suppose it's just testament though to how much people are interested in like James Gunn's Superman movie. That people are excited. It's the eternal appeal of Superman. You can be superhero fatigued out your nut, but ultimately, when it comes to Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, these people's appeal will never go. People will always turn up to see that. They might just not be as interested in seeing the kind of the B-list, the C-list characters every other month, and like a Madam Web. Madam Web really need a movie of her own accord. But yeah, no, so yeah, kind of same as you, mate. It's just a picture for me. It's not like sent me over the edge with excitement. I read a little bit about the backstory. That apparently is it a kind of famous comic or is it Tim Miller artwork or something? I can't remember. It's like,
you mean this picture specifically?
No, I know that it's obviously a prop or whatever designed from the film, but there's a specific fan loved graphic novel that they've taken kind of inspiration from.
Yeah.
I can picture the image in my head.
I know the one you're talking about.
I know
the one you're talking about. Yeah. Okay.
So maybe if you're right into it and people get excited because if they love that comic, that it's exciting. But yeah. See what it is.
Back to more physical media news. This is maybe a couple of weeks old. The Crow is getting the 4K treatment, and there's 2 steelbooks coming out as well as a regular 4K slipcover, I think.
And you've pre-ordered them both, is that right?
I have actually. Yeah. So
does your partner watch this?
The annoying thing is, so the one on the left, which is a Zavvi exclusive in the UK, and what is it, Walmart? It's not Best Buy because Best Buy don't do them anymore. I think it's a Walmart exclusive in the USA. So that was announced a few days or almost a week after the one on the right was announced.
Right, okay.
So the one on the right was announced, and I'm a big fan of the Crow. So I pre-ordered the one on the right, and then the one on the left was announced, and I was like, oh crap, I want that one instead, or do I want that one as well? So so I pre-ordered both. I was only joking that you. No, I genuinely, I was that keen to get them even before they were announced on Zavvi. My pre-orders are actually with one of the group buys on Facebook.
Okay.
I think it's Debossed Media. So I'll link to them below. That's one of the group buys that I use. So they're doing like a group buy for the US versions. Because I just like FOMO had kicked in so badly that I was like, I need to make sure I get a copy of this, because Zavvi hadn't announced it yet, and it had been up for pre-order in America for a few days, and the group buy was open, and I was like, just going to go for it. So thoughts on the Crow and thoughts on these steelbooks?
I think they're nice. Just for my like 2 bobs worth, I prefer the one on the left. I think the Zavvi exclusive one's doing it for me more.
Yeah,
the one on the right's nice if it was the only one that was out, but I think I prefer the eyes and across the Crow. I like the transparent slip, and I think just as a steelbook design, once you get the slip off, the character. What's his name again? The character's name?
Eric Draven.
Draven.
I think Draven.
Aye. So Brandon Lee. Anyway. Yeah. Aye. So no, I prefer that one. But yeah, I only seen the Crow, the original Crow, fairly recently. I only watched it maybe about 18 months ago. It's one of those films that like. My uncle's right into it, and I grew up. My cousins used to watch it, and it was a big movie in their house, but we just never watched it for whatever reason. I enjoyed it, but it's kind of like we talked about this kind of off camera, I think. But like, I think a lot of the time, depending on when you watch a film, can influence how you feel about it.
Yeah.
If you're watching a film that's because it does feel very 90s, this film, and if you're watching it in 2003, say, that has a bit of an impact because it's not as culturally relevant. It doesn't feel modern. Would have done if you watched it in the 90s. But I did enjoy it. I see why it's it's got an interesting aesthetic, very gothic and stuff. And it was enjoyable, even though I was watching it, nearly 30 years later.
Yeah.
So, is it one I'm going to get? Probably like shell out all that money for? No, just because I'm not like that into it. But it's great to see it getting the 4K treatment. There probably will be a Billy Basic one that will come out. That's probably the way they do it, isn't it?
I'm sure I saw that just the other day. They announced like that there is a non-steelbook version coming out.
Yeah.
But you mentioned The Crow, and you mentioned the cultural relevance. Try that again. The cultural relevance of The Crow, and that's a fantastic segue into the next piece of news, which is this shot here.
Yes.
So this is it Bill Skarsgård? I think
one of the Skarsgårds.
I'm sure it's Bill Skarsgård who was Pennywise in the It remake. So they released the first shot of him. You can see it on screen there, and people have been less than kind, shall we say, on this. It's an interesting one because it's just one image. Like it's hard. You can't judge a movie. You can't judge a book by its cover. But yeah, thoughts on this and the backlash.
So, I'm not as clued up on the backlash, but I do know. Like I know that the director of the original Crow has weighed in and been quite unkind and bashed it, which is not what you want, is it?
Who was that again?
I'm trying to avoid because I can't pronounce his name. Alex Proyas, is it Proyas or something? Anyway,
just to give you a behind the scenes look, Andy actually searched how to pronounce his name because he didn't want to get it wrong.
And I've probably still got it wrong. Anyway, he's came out and he's not been as prolific in recent years. Like he made Dark City after this, which is a bit of a
Dark City is brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great film. It's another one that I only watched recently, but I enjoyed that more, I would say, than The Crow.
Right.
Not that I didn't enjoy The Crow, but anyway. So he's come out and teased this guy. I think there was an image where he's holding a beer. He's at a campfire and he's got a trucker's hat on. Yeah. I think he came out and slagged him, basically saying he's got
a mullet in that shot or something.
He's got a mullet. He kind of looks like Tiger King almost, and it's kind of like, I think he's commenting on Twitter about something like, could have at least had him drinking a hard beer. He's drinking like a kind of watered down weak ass beer or something. Anyway, he's come out and just teased that he thinks that he just looks a bit. He doesn't look as hard or as intimidating, basically, as his version, or Brandon Lee's version. But I don't really looking at it personally. Looking at that image, what is? Can you fill me on what's the problem? I don't really get it.
I think the problem is it's not Brandon Lee.
That's all.
That's all it is. Like I don't understand the massive backlash. Like, so not that I don't understand. I wouldn't necessarily be in the same camp as like everyone who like immediately just jumped on the hate wagon for this one. Like you talked about, like, it's the cultural relevance of it. Like The Crow was a 90s movie, so the character is a 90s goth rocker type guy. What's today's version of that? And it's probably that dude there, the way he looks there, and the shot of him in the campfire with the mullet, that's like, that's what like a kind of like an edgy alternative musician in 2024 probably looks like, more so than, the white face paint and the Crow look from the original movie. Like if the original Crow movie didn't exist and this movie's coming out and he's dressed up like Brandon Lee from The Crow in the 90s, people would be like, what? Like, why is he dressed up like that? So I'm very open-minded about it, I think, because it's it's a remake for a modern audience. So like this image alone didn't offend me the way that I think it did, the internet. The mullet in the other image did offend me, but more just on the like hairstyle status.
On its own merit.
Honestly, the mullet alone was offensive. But yeah, that was interesting, that the backlash that got. But yeah, okay, so let's move on. One of the things you wanted to chat about was this story about Austin Butler and Heat 2. Talk to me about that.
Aye, so I'm a big Michael Mann fan, although there's some Michael Mann films I haven't actually seen, but I'm kind of working my way through them.
Which ones haven't you seen?
Ones I've not seen. I've not seen The Keep.
I've not seen either.
Because that's the kind of, even Michael Mann doesn't like that one.
Have you seen Black Hat?
I only recently watched Black Hat, and
it's not bad.
Everyone told me it was like, I think it gets like 5.4 on IMDb, and everyone says it's crap.
It's all right.
I actually quite enjoyed it. It's it's a slow film to begin with, but then it's slowly paced, but then it kind of ramps up rapidly, and I think people maybe have like lost interest and tuned out before it gets to its kind of climax. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I just felt that maybe Chris Hemsworth was a wee bit out his depth with that one. Like I felt like he just wasn't. It's hard to put a finger on it with Black Hat, but he's just a wee bit, as if he's almost trying too hard. to be kind of macho and closed off, and that was my only kind of criticism of it. But it's a decent enough Michael Mann film. Anyway, so big fan of Heat. Did a video on Heat and stuff actually on my channel. But anyway, if anyone's interested in checking that out. But so I was keen to see what Heat 2 would be like. So we were talking earlier about subscriptions you forget you have. So I'd signed up to Prime Video, and I didn't realise, but that also sometimes signs you up to Audible.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, well, check. You maybe got Audible. so I've been paying $6.99 for Audible for about 6 months and hadn't even bloody realised. So I had all these tokens. So I was alright. I better use them up before I cancel it. Heat 2 is one of them, the audio book. Amazing, by the way. Like, so good. It's long. It's like, I think it's about 16 hours or something. But it's really, really good. And if you've seen Heat, it takes place before and after the events of Heat. So we go back and we look at a young Neil Macaulay, De Niro's character, and we look at a young Chris Shaharlis, who's Val Kilmer's character in the 95 film. But then it goes beyond that as well. And Al Pacino's also in it. Or, what's his name? Vincent Hanna.
Right.
He's in it before and after also.
What's the time frame of it?
Yeah, sorry, so I should have said. So Heat's set in 95. It goes back as far as 88 or 89, I think, which is obviously the kind of prequel stuff. And then it goes to 2000.
Okay, right.
So the only person at the time when I was reading it that had been cast was Adam Driver as a young Neil Macaulay, so De Niro's character, for the prequel stuff.
Right, so Adam Driver's a young De Niro.
De Niro, basically, yes. Which I think works
for
that character. I'm excited by
that. I think there's a slight height discrepancy, I think.
Probably, aye.
But I can see that, like, in the, like, even the facial features and the kind of the acting style almost. Like, I, other than the height, I'm on board for that.
Quite an intense kind of actor, but also the age, I suppose, as well. I think De Niro was like mid-50s in the original Heat. Yeah. And this is supposed to be just like 6 years before. And I think Adam Driver, lucky if Adam Driver's bust 40, is he?
I doubt it.
Late 30s, maybe.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, but I wasn't sure who was going to be cast as Chris Shaharlis, because he's probably the main character, because he's there before and after.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be Glenn Powell because he kind of plays a kind of next generation Iceman in Top Gun Maverick pretty well, and he kind of looks like him as well. So I was certain it was going to be Glenn Powell, but then this video emerged of Austin Butler doing all the John Wick kind of gun combat stuff, and he's slick as anything in it. So it's not been announced yet, but I'm pretty sure he's going to play Chris Shaharlis. I just think that's who Austin Butler's the best fit for. I could be wrong, could be Vincent Hanna, but I don't think that would work as him as like a younger and an older Pacino. But so I'm excited, and I think now that I think it's him, I'm like, that makes absolute sense, more so than it does to cast Glenn Powell. So I'm excited for that, and I think this is going to be one of those sequels that is really, really good. And I think because I think he's an old enough film now that younger audiences might not even have came across it.
That's probably very true. Yeah.
So I don't know if it'll be called Heat 2. That's what the book's called, but
it's not the most imaginative title, is it?
No. So yeah, I'm super, super excited for this. I don't think I feel like I'm the only one that's excited for it.
I've bought the book, but I haven't read it yet. I'm not I'm very guilty of buying books that are usually movie related books, and never reading them. I'm still trying to get through the Will Smith autobiography, and that came out before he slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. So like I'm only about halfway through that book, and I got it. My partner got me for Christmas one year, 3 years ago. Yeah, so that was the news about Austin Butler rumoured to be in Heat 2. Another thing that you wanted to talk about was this.
Aye, I like the way you just sammied about that there. Aye, it's just, I think we were looking at news stories before this, and I love the Barbie film, and I love that song. That song's lived rent-free in my head for a long time. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I think the lyrics and everything are brilliant, and he's brilliant at performing it. So I joked with some of my mates that I feel like if that doesn't win Oscar for best song, we riot kind of thing. Yeah. So I don't think it is, because
I don't think it will. No,
I don't think it's even nominated. Is it? Is it nominated?
I think it is, but I think the other Barbie song, the Billie Eilish one, "What Was I Made For?" I think that's also nominated, and I think that's the front runner.
Maybe that's just totally sexist because it's like the male song in it. But I mean, what's the better song though? What's catchier?
Oh yeah, that's the better song.
I'm just kidding, isn't it?
But I've got a bone to pick with the Barbie soundtrack, because I wasn't a huge fan of the movie. My review I'll link to below. But I did like the soundtrack so much. I actually bought the soundtrack on vinyl, and it doesn't have. It's got "I'm Just Ken," but it doesn't have the other one he does on the beach. I Want to Push You Away.
Oh, I can't even remember that. I've only seen it once, but I kind of know the bit you're talking about, but I can't think.
And I'm like, why is that not? Like, I think it's maybe just cut it because you can only fit so much on a record, but like for some reason that wasn't included. But yeah, I think for the Oscars, like, I think it's a good thing for the show because they want as many eyeballs watching their show as possible. And announcing that Ryan Gosling is going to perform the Ken song, that's definitely going to draw some eyeballs. Like people will be people will tune in, I think, just for that. Yeah. So do you watch the Oscars every year?
I do, kind of on and off, just because of the time it's on it. It's never ideal because it's usually on the time they actually get to the meat of it.
Yeah, it's like 5 in the morning or something like that. Yeah.
But I do always go back and watch like the acceptance speeches and stuff like that.
Yeah,
just depends. If I'm off, then I might stay up and watch it. But I mean, I know it's not the be all and end all. There's been some shocking calls over the years. If you go back through the history of the Oscars, like where people have been snubbed and films that have won the best picture that nobody even remembers and stuff. So I don't think that be all and end all.
Yeah,
but I do like the kind of
snubbed Oscar films is another podcast.
It's a podcast in itself, isn't it? But yeah. So I do like to keep an interest, and I kind of like to see if there's a particular nominee that I thought was great. I like to watch just to see if they won, kind of thing, or they won, whatever. So
okay, what else have we got here that we were chatting about up here? The Beatles movie. This was an interesting one. I think I can't remember which podcast. I think it might be the Empire podcast or a different movie podcast. But I think the gist of this one is that they're potentially going to be making, almost like an Avengers style, like individual movie per Beatle released in the same year. I'm sure I heard it was Sam Mendes that was potentially going to be directing all 4 movies, like a Ringo movie, a George movie, a Paul movie, and a John Lennon movie, but all coming out in the same year, which is it's different, like I'm very curious to see if that does happen and how that will happen. Like I think we talked about off camera, like I'm not a massive Beatles fan, but they've got catchy songs. Like I'm not a Beatles historian, I'm not a Beatle maniac or anything like that, but I'd be curious to see if they do that with the movies. Like how is that going to work?
Will they have post credit end sequences and stuff?
Nick Fury sums up.
I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel tried.
Yeah, but that was
the Beatles into the Avengers.
Yeah, that was an interesting bit of news, I thought. Another one that I quite liked was the announcement that they're going to make a sequel to Mutant Mayhem. Comes out in 2026. I was a big fan of this. That was one of the surprise movies of last year for me. Like I'm a big Turtles fan. You talked on another podcast that the first Turtles movie was the first movie you saw in the cinema. Yeah. So Mutant Mayhem getting a sequel was good news for me.
Yeah, I think it's good news for everyone. I think I seen this at the cinema. I seen the first one at the cinema also. And what was a kind of full circle moment, because as I said in another podcast, as you said there, that my first cinema going experience was the 1990s live action Turtles movie, and then I took my daughter. It wasn't the first film she'd seen, but I took my daughter to see this.
Right.
So it was like role reversal, and like what's that? 36 years down the line. 36 years. 30 odd years down the line.
I think the original one came out in 1990 or 1991.
Aye, so 33 or something years down the line. But yeah, I enjoyed it, but it's that way. You've got kids yourself, mate. It's like you can never fully concentrate on a movie when you're there with a young kid. So I was watching it and I'm thinking the visuals here are great. They've obviously taken a cue from the success of the Spider-Verse and all that. But I don't think it's a shock. It was enjoyable. People seem to love it. The animation style was cool. The casting and the voice acting was superb. And it ends on a bit of spoiler. Ends on
Spoiler.
Ends on the Shredder cliffhanger, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we kind of have to see Shredder, don't we? So I'm not surprised, but no, it's good. I'll definitely go and see it. I need to watch the first one again, like properly, like just on my own, so I can fully take it in. But
I think we've like I took the kids to see it in the cinema and they all enjoyed it. And then I got the steelbook. It was the steelbook design was one of my favourite designs last year as well. It was the skateboard.
That's right.
So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that. I think we'll call it there for news. There was more articles, I think, but that we wanted to talk about. But we could talk for hours about the various different news. I think let's move on to the listener or the viewer questions part of the show. No, I'm talking rubbish. We've got something to talk about before that. Let's talk about recent watches. What have you watched recently, and did you enjoy it?
Yeah. So what have I seen recently? So I've got my Atreides Dune T-shirt on here. So I seen, like as probably half of the world has at this point, Dune Part 2, and loved it. I thought it was excellent. I don't know if there's people out there that are getting caught up in it, and
there is a bit of Dune mania.
There's a bit of Dune fever going on, isn't there? Like I think like the whole Messiah thing. A few people going full Stilgar, like in their kind of in the way it's as if it's been infectious. So I think it's great. I probably would give it a 5-star. I think as what it is, a sci-fi kind of summer blockbuster adaptation of a much loved novel. For me, it was firing on all cylinders. I would say 5 out of 5. But I don't know if I would say it's like it's in my top 10 films of all time or anything like that, or that it like. I wouldn't be saying to my mum and dad, you need to go and see Dune Part 2 because it's going to blow your world, because it just wouldn't, because it does take its time, and it's sci-fi, and it can be quite complicated, and it's kind of like space politics, shall we say, and stuff.
Yeah.
And you have to see the first one, which is even slower than the second one, I would suggest. But I loved it. That's my wheelhouse. The sci-fi kind of fantasy is my wheelhouse, is what I enjoy. So it was no surprise I was going to enjoy it, and it's excellently it's brilliantly well executed. But yeah, I know that you were in a different camp.
Yeah,
so I don't. I'm not sitting here totally scratching my head. I don't understand. I do kind of understand.
I mean, I get that I'm in the vast minority when it comes to not liking Dune 2. My review for it, I'll link to below if anyone wants to pile on the hate on that one. Yeah, but so I mean, I saw that recently as well. Wasn't a huge fan, but I'll leave it there. Anything else you saw recently?
Oh, what else have I seen recently? I watched Roadhouse.
The original?
Because the new one's coming in.
Yeah.
So I got Roadhouse.
And was that the first time you'd saw it?
First time I'd ever seen it, yeah.
What's your thoughts?
That film is so 80s. It's unbelievable. Like, they just like the new Roadhouse is going to be nothing like that. Like the kind of nudity and just the way the women are portrayed and the ridiculous machoism. But you can't, if you accept that and just take it, it's good. Yeah. And the soundtrack's good.
It is, yeah. I've not seen the
Doors songs
one.
in it and all. So none of them are like original songs, if I remember rightly. They're all kind of like
it's been
contemporary for the time covers of.
It's been a while since I saw it.
Songs, but it's like
quintessentially 80s cheese. I would say
absolute cheese. But in a good way. I don't know if I think if there's any younger fans that watch like the new Roadhouse, which I've got a funny feeling will be quite good and enjoyable.
I'm looking forward to it. It's that's probably something that in the news section as well, about the whole, like, the director boycotting the movie because it's not getting released in theatres when his original deal, I think.
It's Doug Liman, isn't it?
It's Doug Liman, yeah. And it got caught up with like Amazon buying MGM, and that's why it's going straight to Prime and whatnot. But I'm looking forward to it. Conor McGregor is from the trailer alone, it's hard to judge, but you're thinking, wow, that's it's not a subtle performance.
No, I think sometimes like with that, like sometimes people can just be cast like for who they are, like as in like see, instead of going, who can we get to play a Conor McGregor type over the top? Like,
let's just get Conor McGregor.
Just ask him, see if he wants to play it. So it's kind of like, I think it kind of makes sense just to stick Conor McGregor in it, and then it has that pull as well, because people will come from UFC to watch. UFC fans will watch it just because he's and it gives a bit of a believability to it and menace to his character, because you're looking at someone who as a real fighter,
someone who could
who could do what they're doing on screen.
Yeah.
So no, I think it'll be good. But I think if anyone who's new to the Roadhouse universe. I can't believe there's a Roadhouse like, universe now.
the Roadhouse cinematic universe.
Cinematic universe franchise, what you want to call it. The Double Juice. If they watch that for the first time and then go, I think I'll go back and check out this.
Yeah.
The 89 one, they're going to be like, what is this toss? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think younger audiences would be like, what is this? But I'm probably of that age that I like enough. I miss that, but I like enough 80s films that are similar that I can go back and I can enjoy it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there was Roadhouse.
Anything else?
And then on a more kind of highbrow level, I watched Past Lives, which is, I forget her name now, but it's an Oscar-nominated foreign language film about the Caribbean. I think it might be Korean.
I think so, yeah.
Korean couple that are like childhood friends and they get separated for one reason or another. The female ends up in New York and he kind of stays behind, does his national service and stuff, but never really moves on from her. And it's just an interesting study on relationships and how, maybe the soulmate kind of angle and stuff like that, and ultimately it culminates with, it's a kind of film of missed opportunity and how sometimes it's like the whole sliding doors thing kind of.
The trailer, I've not seen it yet, but the trailer did kind of make me think of sliding doors, or the kind of the general story and the conceit of it, yeah.
It's quite slow burn and you have to be, I don't watch a lot of stuff like that, but I think because it was Oscar nominated, I thought, I'll give it a go, and I'm glad I did because it's good and it's realistic and it has like, they communicate through Zoom meetings, through kind of like FaceTime,
right,
in the relationship, which is kind of realistic.
Yeah,
kind of boringly realistic, but to how a relationship would play out these days, but a long distance relationship, and it kind of culminates in them eventually meeting in New York and having this kind of like, putting to bed maybe what their feelings are, but someone's moved on and stuff. But it's just a really interesting, realistic kind of bittersweet romance film, really well done. I would recommend checking it out, and I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe does. So I think it's nominated for best foreign film or maybe best.
I think so, yeah.
Screenplay or something.
A few
like
others,
that.
yeah. That's am I right in saying that's on one of the streamers just now? Or
possibly.
It's about to be.
I watched it it's on Blu-ray. It's been released on Blu-ray in the UK, and I watched it through Cinema Paradiso as a shipped out to me.
We'll
Blu-ray
put a link to
kind of
Cinema Paradiso below. I'm sure I saw that it's coming soon to one of the streamers. Yeah.
Well, it's good. Really good. Recommend it.
So recent watches for me then, other than Dune 2, I watched the Adam Sandler Space Spider movie.
Seen a lot of pictures
just a couple of days ago, and it's definitely a weird one, but I actually really did enjoy it. Like it kind of did strike a chord with me. Like I think I scored it 7 out of 10 on my review. It's not a comedy. It's not an Adam Sandler comedy. It's Adam Sandler in his like Punch Drunk Love, Uncut Gems mode.
You gave a great like mashup that sold me on it, and the tagline to your video or something. What were the three
I think
films?
it was.
I was like, I'm sold.
It's Moon meets Marriage Story meets Loki.
I mean, that's some good marketing right there.
I mean, yeah, you can put that on the poster. But yeah, that was something I watched just a few days ago, and I quite enjoyed that. And something I watched literally just last night, because I was talking about Apple TV in a different podcast and how like I'm not using that, but I'm paying for it because the free trial had run out. I was curious to watch the Tetris movie that's on Apple TV.
I mean to see that myself. I've not seen it yet.
It's interesting. It's Taron Egerton is the star, and I think he's the only kind of like recognisable face in it, at least for me. And it's not a movie like about the game. It's not a game movie in the same way that Mario Brothers is a movie, or Pixels was the Pac-Man movie. This is a movie about how Tetris got made, and about how the crazy story about the rights and the licensing to it, and between like at the time the Soviet Union, because it was made by a guy in the Soviet Union, and it's at the time it was still a communist nation, but it was like it was coming to the end of that, and so just doing business deals between like Russia and Japan and the USA. So I'm maybe not selling it as something that's good, but it's not as boring as I'm describing it. But that's what it's about. Like on paper,
kind of documentary film, really.
Kind of. I mean, it's like I suppose like on paper, it's a if you just read that, you think, wow, that must be a boring movie. If it's about global licensing rights for a video game, because that's what it's about. But it is actually quite interesting. Like the way it's shot, the performances in it. I really quite enjoyed it. I'd probably score it about a 7 out of 10 as well. It's on Apple TV. It was shot, at least in part, in Glasgow, so you can see some of the shots are recognisable. So that was interesting. I think that's probably it for me. Recent watches wise, anything else you want to chime in with?
I watched loads of stuff. We'd be here all day if I was just to go over everything. I've been watching just on the Michael Mann theme again because, as I said to you, I watched ep2 and I was like, give me more Michael Mann. And I discovered that he's produced that show that's on Lionsgate. The Lionsgate like bolt-on streaming.
Oh yeah,
like
Prime. You can bolt it on. With
it's
Prime,
called Tokyo Vice, and it stars young man from Baby Driver. What if I go to saying his name because I can't remember. It's Angel. Is it
Ansel Elgort?
Ansel Elgort or something like that, yeah. And I'd only ever seen him in Baby Driver, where he plays a kind of quiet, reserved, kind of mysterious character. But he's much more animated, much more kind of realistic in this one. And it's a true life story of, or kind of inspired by a true story of an American who comes to, it's set at like the turn of the millennium, like late 90s, who comes to Japan to become the kind of first American journalist to work for the big newspaper there, but it's with a view to kind of cracking open, if you like, the whole kind of underground Yakuza scene.
Yeah.
But it's got Michael Mann directs the first episode, but it's got that kind of Michael Mann feel to the whole thing. You know, it's all shot really well. It's all cool. It's all neon kind of dripped, and it's a kind of, I suppose it's a kind of police procedural.
What was that called again?
Tokyo Vice.
Right.
And it's all about him kind of he and befriends Ken Watanabe.
Watanabe? I don't know.
You know the one I mean.
Yeah.
Last Samurai, Batman Begins. He's this kind of grizzled cop who knows how it all works,
right,
and understands why the media don't know about it and all that, and why it all gets kept out the papers. But he's more of a kind of, he's coming at it from a Western kind of mindset. He's like, no, this should be in the papers. People should know about this, and so he's kind of working with him to understand the Yakuza and get a relationship so he can get the sources that he needs and kind of expose it. But I'm enjoying it. It's really good. So not a movie as such, but if you like Michael Mann, it's maybe worth checking out Tokyo Vice.
That's Tokyo Vice, and it's on the Lionsgate Plus add-on for Prime.
Yes.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, let's move on to kind of the last segment of the show, and that's some listener or viewer questions. So we'll go back and pull up the screen here. I put a post up on YouTube community for anyone who wanted to ask us anything, so we'll batter through these. So we've got Paul Tams 450. How do you budget for your collection? I'll go first with that one because my answer is easy. I don't. I should. I absolutely should, but I don't. It's. I'd like to say it's my one vice, and it's a vice that I should budget for, but I just don't. Like we talked about with The Crow, I ended up buying both just for FOMO. So I don't budget for my collection. Andy?
Kind of similar. I'd be lying if I said I had a strict budget. I had a funny feeling you were going to say you didn't have a budget. But yeah, rule of thumb for me is roughly like 50 quid a month. Like I try and stick to that. I buy a lot of second-hand stuff, so that if I was going by that would mean maybe treat myself to like a new release 4K, 25 quid. Gives me 25 quid to play with for going to CEX and maybe getting, like I talked about in another, like Sicario I got recently the other day there. Yeah. A 4K, but only £8, So I try and kind of utilise second-hand shops, eBay and stuff like that to make my money go further. But if I know there's something big coming out, the Disney steals and stuff, then I'll also incorporate that into the budget. So it just means I won't get as much that month. But it's it's a good question, and there's so many channels out there on YouTube. We are the same. We're guilty of that, and because we don't, we're just like, oh, look at this shiny new, like magpie channels to an extent. Look at this shiny new, but rarely do people actually, those same people, come on and say, by the way, like you don't have to have every steelbook that's going. You don't put yourself in debt and stuff. Because I think there's certainly some people out there I've spoke with on Instagram and stuff that have told me about what they've got pre-ordered and stuff. And I think, God, that's a hell of a lot. Yeah. But it's not my place to say to them. Yeah. But I think it's something that needs to be more, people need to be more open about though, because it is a slippery slope.
It can be an expensive hobby.
Addictive.
It can be an addictive, expensive hobby. Yeah. Okay, so there you go. We don't really budget for the collection. Next question comes from the Wind Windgrace project. I think it's Lisa. If it's not, apologies. What's the most disappointed you've been in a physical release? Not in terms of content, but like packaging, extra features, etc. I know what you're going to say, so I'm going to let you vamp on that while I go and grab a battery for my MacBook, because it's about to run out. So Andy's going to rant about something.
There's been a few over the years, to be honest, that since I've been doing YouTube and collecting more seriously. But the most recent one that I kind of went mental about on my channel was the Gladiator Titans of Cult 4K Steelbook box set, which was a kind of reboot, if you like, of Titans of Cult. It was I called it Titans of Cult 2.0. They put a new box on it and all that, which was better, I thought anyway, than the old plastic flimsy ones. And they added this, what would you call it? Holder for a steelbook, kind of plaque thing for a steelbook that you could sit the steelbook in, so that you could prop it up without having to buy a third party one. All nice little additions. However, I don't know what's going on with the quality control, but they absolutely plastered the back of the box with glue. So there's just no way, really, unless you were going to start getting hair dryers out and start getting like, you shouldn't have to get your hair dryer out to unbox. I won't make a hairdryer joke. Do you know what I mean? And I don't, exactly. So I don't have one to hand. Have to ask Mrs. Geek nicely for a loan of hers. But yeah, massive big blobs of glue. So when you pulled it off, just defaced the box set straight away. So immediately you feel like you've got a second hand or a used product. When you're that box set I'm talking about was £50, you know. And then the placard thing that you put the steelbook in didn't even fit. And it was like shoddy. It wasn't sized properly. So kind of useless. So again, it's first world problems, and I appreciate maybe not. I don't think you did that issue, did you?
No, I am. With the glue dot thing, like I kind of I'm kind of half expecting that now with releases. So I've got like a wee kind of scalpely type knife thing that I just like slice it out. But I do remember it being like really stuck on. I think I either got lucky or slightly luckier than you. But I think that just with the fact that I'd kind of sliced through it helped. And when it came to the stand holder, I think you mentioned in your video that it was like a second run production, or potentially a second run production,
because that's my theory anyway.
My stand holder was fine. I'm never going to use it because it probably will scratch the steelbook, at least at the bottom, but it did fit. So it could have been a random one, or it could have been like, a second run production problem that they've all got. But I'll put a link to Andy's video on that below.
I see some genuine disappointment, but there's a lot of money, But shelling out a lot of money for these things.
What was it, £50 or something like that for that version? Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. So I've just kind of said in the previous question, my budget for the month's about 50. So that's it for the month, and it was a bit disappointing. So yeah, there's a few culprits out there. Like, I wasn't too keen on the art cards that came with it either. I felt they were a wee bit kind of like.
I actually liked them.
Did you like them? I just thought they were a wee bit kind of.
The ones that were, it was like,
it
was half behind the scenes. I thought there wasn't enough of them. Like, I think they only used 4. I thought there wasn't enough of them, but I quite liked that release. The steelbook design I loved, because it was like the replica of Maximus's armor. But it's funny when I read that question, I was like, I know exactly what Andy's going to talk about. I can't think of a massive disappointment lately. The first thing that comes to mind, so I'll just say that, was the Conan box set. I wasn't hugely disappointed with it, other than the fact that it wasn't steelbooks. It was just like Amaray cases, and it was just the poster art. But the poster art was like shrunk down and windowed with a black frame for some reason. So not massively disappointed, but like I would have loved if that was steelbooks, or if it wasn't steelbook, better artwork, or full size artwork on the actual disc. So not a massive disappointment, but that was the first thing that came to mind with that one. Right, let's rattle on. Next question. So from Total Movie Recall, are there any movies in particular that you would like to see get the 4K treatment that haven't already?
One just sprung to mind, which is handy. But I think there's a good few out there. But in fact, I'm going to say one that I know that he'll like the answer to this. But I think The Mask from the 90s. That's a big film for me, The Mask, right? And I watched it. I picked it up recently from HMV for on a sale for like $4.99. And it's looking a bit ropey. It doesn't have it's still got the old lossy audio, I believe. Or if it does have lossless, it's the old style. kind of first pressing true HD stuff. But it's just looking a bit old. It just looks a bit grubby. It's not a really razor sharp Blu-ray presentation of The Mask. Watchable, but you can tell it's an earlier Blu-ray. Yeah. And I think it might be the old kind of VC1 type encode on it.
Proper geek chat there.
Going full geek. Which is just a kind of less sophisticated AVC I think they use now for the encoding for most Blu-rays. Anyway, so it's an older style transfer, but it's the opportunity for HDR. I mean, HDR on The Mask, it's such a bright, vibrant, colourful movie, so it's like screaming out for it. So I think
I really should get a HDR TV.
HDR implementation on The Mask would be nice, and it could just do a 4K scan, I think. But I just think it's also there's so much in The Mask. There's so much imagery. There's the Loki mask. Like it would always be criminal, in my opinion, to not do a box set that was The Mask, or have it come with a replica of the actual.
I thought you meant a box set with the sequel or the Son of the Mask.
Oh no, Son of the Mask.
We don't need that. We don't need that.
Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of potential to have, like, if Arrow were to take it on. Yeah. There's loads of trinkets and little.
Oh, you could go to town on the artwork for that alone. Like I can see the steelbook, with like a picture of the Mask on the back, and then and then Jim Carrey in full costume in the front. Like, I would buy that for sure. Aye. I would for sure buy that.
Just I know I'll fire in one more. This is a total B movie crappy film, but the Guyver. So the Guyver. Is shite, but the Guyver is getting a 4K release soon in America only, I believe. But it's getting a 4K, maybe Arrow. I can't remember. But the Guyver's getting a 4K, but there's not even a Blu-ray of the Guyver Dark Hero.
Okay,
there's different cuts to the Guyver Dark Hero,
right?
And many people prefer it to the.
I've never seen them.
Have you not?
No.
I would say you like them, but maybe you wouldn't actually, because they are, again, they're probably.
Are they like Dune?
No, they're not like Dune. They're more fun than Dune and ridiculous than Dune. But like, I would say the Guyver's quite kind of almost comedy, and it's got that kind of, it's live. It's kind of Power Ranger-y. Do you know that kind of Power Rangers?
I know the poster, and the poster just when I see the poster or the VHS art, because I'm aware of the movie, I've just never seen it. But yeah, Power Rangers is what comes to mind when I think of Guyver.
The first one's misleading because it has a lot of the artwork had Mark Hamill in it, and a kind of half and half. Mark Hamill's in it, but he's like half and half on the. So it's like the Guyver's mask,
right?
And then Mark Hamill on the other half, which would allude you to think, what?
Yeah,
he's the Guyver, but he's not. So it was just a and yeah, what happens to him in the film is mental. But anyway, the Guyver Dark Hero has David Hayter in it, who's a bit of a hero of mine, who voiced Solid Snake.
Oh, okay.
Voice actor. He's been in movies as well. So he plays the Guyver. It's a change of cast for the guy that plays the Guyver, but it's much darker, that one. It's not a great film by any means, but it's got some really good kind of fight choreography for the 90s for a B-movie film. Yeah. I just think there's loads of people that I think like the Guyver Dark Hero is a bit of a B-movie cult classic, and it's a bit ridiculous that we're getting a 4K of the Guyver. We don't even have...
Jump into the mic.
Sorry. We're getting a 4K of the Guyver, but we don't even have a Blu-ray yet of Dark Hero. But anyway.
For me, the first thing that came to mind when with that question was Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
I'm sure someone put that up on a Facebook post recently, saying like, why have we not got that? So yeah, that would that was the first thing that came to mind. There was Big Trouble in Little China. That's one of my favourite movies. It's probably maybe not top 10, but it's definitely a top 20.
That's a bit
and so I'd love to see a 4K of Big Trouble in Little China. Right, let's go to the last question here.
A Big Trouble in Little China band.
Are you? What is it?
It's on the Reflexes.
Nice. It's a movie that I quote, maybe not on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis. It's probably a movie that I quote.
Jack Burton's a cinematic legend.
Yes, he is indeed. I mean, it is on. So there you go. Big Trouble in Little China would be my 4K want. The last question from me at my end was from Mad Blood Matt. What's the movie you're most excited for the second half of 2024?
The second half of 2024?
So from July onwards, I suppose. I mean, for me...
My memory's terrible for what's actually coming out at the end of the year. I know Gladiator 2 is coming out second half.
Gladiator 2 I think is November. So that was definitely the second half.
Yeah.
I would say for me it would be Gladiator 2 and also Deadpool and Wolverine. I think that's July, which is at roughly the halfway mark. So there you go. So Gladiator 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine.
Is Beetlejuice second half? There were just 2.
I think so.
I think it's September, October time, isn't it?
Someone put a funny post online because there's 2 different posters. Because the poster is like the ticker tape with the date on it, but because in America they put the month first for reasons, and so there's the same poster but just the dates swapped around. So I think that led to kind of like some comical confusion. But I think it's September.
It's bound to be September / October.
It's either the 6th of September or the 9th of June, depending on which date system you subscribe to. And then I think somebody put a question on your channel, or did we cover it already?
Yes, so big Al Pearson, just to give him a shout out, had contacted me and it was pretty much similar. It's pretty similar to what Told Me Recall would ask there. So hopefully, Al, that's answers the question. But yeah, he just wanted to know if there was anything that you'd love to get as a 4K upgrade that doesn't exist yet, or an ultimate collector's set. But yeah, I think we've given some decent answers there.
Excellent. Okay, so let's see what we've got. I think that covers all the questions. It does indeed. Right, I think we'll wrap it up there, mate. Thank you very much for joining me on this, for coming along. That was I don't even know how long we've been chatting there, but I think we covered a good few bits there. So I'll just say thanks to Andy, who's Electric Geek on YouTube. We'll link to his channel below. Thanks for everyone for watching. As I said, this might be episode 1 or 2 of many, or this might be one and done. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comments below. If there's anything specific you think you might want us to chat about in a potential future episode, let us know on that. But in the meantime, I'll just say thanks to Andy for coming along.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having us, mate. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me along for this today.
And we'll catch you in the next one.